I was in the kitchen getting Sunday dinner ready, when I overheard my daughter Patricia Hayes talking in the living room. She was on the phone. The tone she was using was pure irritation, the same one she used when complaining about bills that were overdue. But this time the subject was me. This old woman is nothing but trouble. I can't stand having her here in the house anymore. You wouldn't believe how much she gets in the way of everything. Tyrone has said 1,000 times he wants her out for good. I felt my hands begin to tremble uncontrollably. The wooden spoon I was holding slipped and clattered to the floor with a dull thud. I stood there completely frozen, as my heart pounded in my chest. Patricia kept talking on the phone, completely unaware of the deep pain that every single word was causing me. Me, Doris Thames, who had raised that girl all alone after her father walked out on us when she was only 3 years old. Me, who had worked 3 jobs simultaneously to pay for her college education. Me, who had spent countless sleepless nights praying at her bedside when she was sick. Now I was just that old woman who only caused problems. I didn't say anything to anyone. I didn't confront her about what I'd heard. I didn't yell. I retreated to my room at the back of the house in absolute silence. I closed the door softly so as not to make a sound and knelt by the bed. Lord, give me the strength to understand what is happening to me. Show me the path I need to follow. I cried quietly, muffling my sobs in the pillow, afraid that someone would hear me and make more jokes about the weeping old lady. That night, when everyone else was asleep, I looked out my window and it felt like my whole life flashed before my eyes. I'd worked as a housekeeper, a cook, a seamstress, a nanny, anything and everything so that Patricia could have a better future than I had. And now, at 68 years old, I realized I had become a burden in the house that I myself had bought with my own sweat. But what they didn't know was that everything was about to change drastically. I got up early on Monday just like always. I prepared breakfast for the whole family. Grits for Tyrone, a thick fruit smoothie for Patricia, and fluffy buttermilk pancakes for Sophia, my 12-year-old granddaughter. Everything was served with a smile, even though it was getting harder to maintain that smile every single day. Patricia came downstairs looking at her phone. As usual, she didn't even look up when I put the plate in front of her. Mom, this smoothie is way too thick. Can't you get it right even once? I swallowed and took a deep breath. I'm sorry, baby. I'll add more milk to it. Forget it. I don't have time. She grabbed her purse and left without even saying goodbye. Tyrone followed her without a word. Not a good morning. Not a thank you for the meal, nothing. Just the sound of the front door slamming shut. Sophia lingered for a moment longer, looking at me with those big eyes that reminded me so much of Patricia when she was little. Are you okay, Grandma? I smiled, stroking her shiny black hair. Of course I am, my love. Go on or you'll be late for school. The girl gave me a tight hug before leaving. That hug was honestly the only thing that kept me going that day. After everyone was gone, I sat at the empty kitchen table and looked around. This house held so many memories for me. I had bought it 30 years ago when I was still working at that textile plant. I had saved every single dollar I could. I ate the simplest meals just to save up for the down payment. I worked double shifts on the weekends, all just to have a place of my own. A place where Patricia could grow up feeling safe and secure. The walls still even had the marks from when she was small. Right there by the kitchen entrance. Pencil marks measuring her height every birthday. Patricia, 5 years old. Patricia, 7 years old. Patricia, 10 years old. I ran my fingers over those faded marks and felt myself just completely break down inside. How did we even get to this point? At what point did my daughter stop seeing me as her mother, and start seeing me as nothing more than an obstruction? The phone suddenly rang, startling me out of my thoughts. It was Esther Evans, my lifelong friend. Doris, how are you doing? Want to meet up for coffee this afternoon? I hesitated for a moment. I really didn't want to worry her. But Esther knew me better than anyone else in the world. Sure, friend. I'll meet you at our regular spot. That afternoon, when I sat across from her at our usual table by the window, I just couldn't hold it in anymore. Everything came pouring out of me. I told her everything I'd heard, how they were treating me, How I felt completely invisible in my own home. Esther took my hands firmly in hers. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Oh, Doris, I honestly can't believe that Patricia is doing this to you after everything you sacrificed for her. Maybe it's my fault, Esther. Maybe I spoiled her too much. I gave her everything she ever wanted, and now she doesn't value anything at all." "Don't you dare say that. You were an exemplary mother. The problem isn't you. The problem is that she forgot where she came from, plain and simple." I drank my coffee in silence, just feeling the warmth of the cup in my now cold hands. "I just don't know what to do, Esther. I don't even feel welcome in my own house anymore." My friend leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Doris, is that house still in your name?" "Yes. When Patricia married Tyrone 15 years ago, I put her name on the deed too, but I'm still the principal owner." Esther looked at me with an intensity one hadn't seen before. "Then you have options, friend. You have way more power than you realize." Those words kept spinning around in my head all the way back home. Options? What options did a 68-year-old woman who had spent her whole life giving everything to her family possibly have? When I arrived back home, the door was slightly ajar. Inside, I heard raised voices. Patricia was arguing with Tyrone in the living room. "I'm telling you, I honestly can't take it anymore. My mother is here all day meddling in everything, always asking annoying questions." "I know, baby, but we can't just kick her out. What will people say?" "I honestly don't even care what people say. I want my space back. I want my house back to myself." I stood there at the entrance, listening to every single heartbreaking word. Tyrone continued. "Look, my mother, Brenda, says she knows a very nice assisted living facility on the other side of town. We could go take a look at it this weekend." An assisted living facility. They actually wanted to put me in a home after everything I had done for them. After giving them this house, after cooking, cleaning, and taking care of Sophia whenever they went out, they wanted to get rid of me like I was just a piece of trash. I walked right into the living room. They both fell silent immediately, giving me those unmistakable guilty looks. "Hi, Mom," Patricia said with a forced, cheerful voice. "How was your time with Esther?" "Fine." My voice came out much calmer than I expected it to. "I couldn't help but overhear you talking about the facility." The silence was deafening. Patricia looked at Tyrone, then back at me. "Mom, well, we just thought that maybe you'd be more comfortable in a place where there are people your age, where they can take better care of you." "Care? Who even takes care of me here? I'm the one who takes care of everybody. I cook. I clean. I look after my grandbaby. What more do you even want me to do?" Tyrone got up from the sofa with that condescending attitude he always used with me. "Doris, you have to understand. You're getting old. You need to rest. Stop working so hard. At the facility, you'd have everything taken care of for you. Meals, doctors, activities with people your age. This is my house, Tyrone. I bought it with my own money." Patricia came closer, putting on that sweet girl face that didn't fool me anymore. "Mom, nobody is saying it's not your house, but living here is causing you so much stress. You look tired all the time. We just want what's best for you." "What's best for me?" I repeated, tasting the blatant lie. "You mean what's best for you, right? What's best is to have the house free and clear without the annoying old woman." "Mom, don't be so dramatic." Patricia actually raised her voice at me. "You're always making a huge drama out of everything. That's why it's always so hard to even talk to you." I just turned around and went up to my room. I locked the door for the first time in years. I sat on the edge of the bed and just looked around this small room at the back of the house, the room I had accepted so that they could have the bigger bedrooms, the room where I had cried so many nights in silence. On the wall, there was an old photo of Patricia when she was just 5 years old. We were in a park, just the two of us. She was wearing a yellow dress that I had sewn myself. She was smiling, holding me tight. That little girl really loved me. That little girl truly needed me. Where did that child even go? I took the photo and put it in my drawer. I couldn't keep looking at the past. I had to think about the present, about my future for once. I didn't eat dinner with them that night. I stayed in my room, listening to their laughter coming from downstairs. Brenda Miller, Tyrone's mother, had come over for dinner. I heard her shrill voice even from my room. "Oh, Patricia, you're so lucky to have this nice house. I always said Tyrone deserved the best." "Thank you, Mom. Though sometimes it's hard to keep everything in order with, well, you know." "Oh yes, your mother. Poor thing. But don't worry, honey. We'll definitely find a solution. My sister works at a very decent facility. I can definitely get you a discount." They were talking about me as if I no longer existed, as if I were already dead, and they just needed to make the funeral arrangements. I knelt by the bed and prayed like I hadn't prayed in years. "Lord, you who are the ultimate mother, you who know what it is to love a child more than your own life, help me. Show me what to do. Give me the strength I need." And in that very moment, something inside me just shifted completely. I was no longer the Doris who accepted everything without saying a word. I was no longer the Doris who made herself small so as not to bother anyone. I was the Doris who had worked 3 jobs. The Doris who had raised her daughter all alone. The Doris who had bought this house with her own hard work and effort. The next day, Tuesday morning, I waited for everyone to leave. Tyrone left first at 7 a.m. Patricia took Sophia to school at 8 a.m. The house was finally empty and silent. I took my metal box out of the closet. All of my important documents were in there. The house deed, my birth certificate, the bank papers, all in order, all carefully guarded over the years. The house deed clearly stated Doris Thames, principal owner. Below that, added years later, Patricia Hayes, co-owner. I called a number that Esther had given me. It was a lawyer, the son of a friend of hers. His name was Andrew Peterson. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thames. My mother told me about your situation. How can I help you?" I explained everything to him. The humiliations, the nursing home plan, how they treated me in my own house. He listened without interrupting me once. "Ma'am, you have every legal right to make changes regarding your property. As the principal owner, you can make decisions that affect the use of the house. Are you absolutely sure about what you want to do?" "More certain than I've been in a very long time, attorney." "Very well. I will prepare the documents right away. Everything will be ready in 1 week." I hung up the phone with my hands trembling. Not from fear, but from something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Control over my own life. For the next few days I moved through my own house like a ghost. I did everything as usual. I cooked, cleaned, and smiled when necessary. But inside something had definitely changed. Their contempt didn't hurt in the same way that it used to. I no longer felt small when Brenda came over for lunch and treated me like I was nothing more than a servant. Patricia noticed that something was different about me. On Wednesday, while I was doing the dishes after lunch, she approached me. "Mom, are you okay? You seem strange lately." "I'm fine, baby, just a little tired. Have you thought about what we told you about the facility? Brenda can take us to see it this Saturday coming up." I kept washing the dishes without turning around to look at her. "We'll see, Patricia. We'll see." She left annoyed, muttering something under her breath that I didn't catch, but it didn't really matter anymore. For the first time in a very long time, I honestly didn't care what she thought. On Thursday afternoon, Andrew called me. "Mrs. Thames, the documents are all ready. You can come to my office tomorrow to sign them." "I'll be there, attorney." That night, Sophia came to my room after she finished doing her homework. She sat on my bed with a very sad look on her face. "Grandma, is it true that you're going to move somewhere else?" It honestly broke my heart to see her little eyes so full of tears. "Come here, my love." I hugged her tight, feeling her small body tremble. "No matter what happens, I will always be here for you. Maybe not in this house, but always in your heart and in your life. But I don't want you to leave. I love you so much, Grandma. You're honestly the only one who really listens to me. And you are my reason for keeping on, sweetie. Never ever forget that." I rocked her until she calmed down. When she left for her room, I just stared at the ceiling, thinking about absolutely everything that was about to happen. On Friday morning, I got dressed with extra care. I put on my blue dress, the one that I usually saved for only special occasions. I did my hair neatly. I put on my silver earrings. I left the house before anyone else woke up, leaving a note in the kitchen. Went out early. Have things to do. Doris. Andrew's office was downtown in an old but very well-maintained building. His secretary greeted me with a kind smile. He's waiting for you, Mrs. Thames. Please come right in. Andrew was a man in his 40s with glasses and a tie. He welcomed me with a lot of respect, even offering me coffee and cookies. Mrs. Thames, here are all the documents for you to look over. I reviewed them all very carefully. As the principal owner, you have the right to request that the co-owners vacate the property if there are justified grounds. In your case, the humiliations and psychological mistreatment definitely constitute more than sufficient grounds. He explained everything to me very patiently, point by point. My rights, the steps that they would take, what to expect. How long do they have to leave? I asked, feeling my voice tremble ever so slightly. The document gives them 30 days to vacate the property. That should be enough time for them to find another place to live. 30 days, 1 month. I took a deep breath. And my grandbaby? Your granddaughter is a minor. She goes with her parents, of course, but you can certainly request a visitation schedule. You won't lose contact with her. I signed the documents with a firm hand. Each and every signature was a step toward my freedom. Each signature was me regaining my dignity. The documents will be delivered tomorrow afternoon directly to your daughter and son-in-law. An official process server will go to the house. Thank you, attorney. Truly, thank you so very much. You really don't have to thank me, Mrs. Thames. You're doing the right thing here. No one deserves to be mistreated in their own home, ever. I walked back home slowly. It was mid-afternoon, and the sun was warm on my skin. I stopped at a church along the way. I went inside and sat on a back pew. Dear Lord, give me the strength I need for what is coming. Please protect Sophia. Help Patricia understand someday why I did this. And just give me peace, Lord. Please give me peace. When I arrived back home, everyone was already there. Patricia, Tyrone, Brenda, and Sophia were all sitting in the living room talking animatedly about something. Mom, where were you? We've been calling you all afternoon. Patricia stood up. I went out to take care of some things that I needed to do. What things? Tyrone looked at me with that suspicion that he could never quite hide. My own. I went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Brenda followed me in there. Doris, tomorrow we are going to see that facility. We agreed on 10 o'clock in the morning. You need to be ready. I turned to look at her. That woman who had honestly never respected me, who had always treated me as if I was less than her. I am not going to any facility, Brenda. What do you mean, no? Everything is all set. You can't be so stubborn. This is my house and I'm staying right here. She huffed angrily and went back to the living room. I heard them whispering, surely talking about how difficult and obstinate I was being. I ate dinner with them in silence that night. Sophia looked at me worriedly. Patricia and Tyrone avoided making eye contact with me. Brenda kept talking nonstop about all the wonders of the facility, as if I wasn't even there at all. When everyone went to bed, I stayed all alone in the kitchen doing the dishes. I looked out the window at the small backyard garden. There was a rose bush that I had planted when Patricia was just a baby. It was still blooming after all these years. Tomorrow everything changes, I told myself softly. Tomorrow my new life begins. And for the first time in a very long time, I slept peacefully that night without nightmares, without anxiety, because I knew deep down that I had finally made the right decision for myself. The next day, Saturday afternoon, the moment finally arrived. I was in my room when I heard the doorbell ring, then voices at the door and then shouting, "What is this? Mom, you need to come down here right now." It was Patricia's voice, full of rage and panic. I walked down the stairs slowly. In the living room, Patricia and Tyrone stood holding some papers, their faces red with anger. The process server had already left. What does this even mean? Patricia showed me the documents, trembling. You're kicking us out of the house. I am exercising my rights as the principal owner of this property. Tyrone approached me threateningly. This is abuse. You can't actually do this to us. I can, and I am doing it. You have 30 days to find another place to live. Patricia collapsed onto the sofa, crying hysterically. I can't believe it. My own mother. After everything we did for you. After everything you did for me? Humiliating me, treating me like a servant, planning to put me in a home without even consulting me about it? That's all you did for me. We gave you a roof over your head. Food. Tyrone yelled at me. This house is mine. I buy the food with my social security check. I gave you a roof over your heads, and you repaid me with contempt. The silence that followed was long and heavy. Sophia then appeared on the stairs, her eyes full of tears. Grandma! Come here, my love. I hugged her tight as Patricia and Tyrone glared at us with hatred in their eyes. This is not going to stand, Tyrone threatened me. We're going to fight this legally, you just wait and see. Go right ahead. Attorney Andrew Peterson will be waiting for your call. That night, the house was filled with yelling, slamming doors, and a lot of tears. But I stood firm because, after 68 long years of giving everything for others, I was finally choosing to give something to myself. Dignity. The days that followed were honestly the most painful days of my entire life. Patricia barely even looked at me during meals. She ate in complete silence, scrolling on her phone as if I didn't even exist. Tyrone walked right past me in the hallway as if I were completely invisible, without even saying a good morning or a good night to me. And Brenda, who used to come over for lunch every single day, now arrived even more frequently, only to make me feel even worse than I already did. Doris, fetch me some water, please. Doris, the food is bland again. Doris, don't you have anything better to do with your life besides standing there in the way? I didn't answer her. I had promised myself that I would stay calm, that I would maintain my dignity, but every single word caused an immense sadness inside of me that I kept locked away like a painful secret. One morning while I was cleaning the living room, I found an old box hidden under the sofa. I recognized it immediately. It was the box where I kept all of the photos of Patricia when she was a little girl. I opened it with trembling hands, and the memories just flooded me like a tidal wave. There was Patricia at just 2 years old in her floral dress that was way too big for her because I had bought it at the thrift store, thinking that it would last her longer if I did that. There she was at 5 years old on her very first day of kindergarten with the braids that I did for her every single morning before the sun even came up so that I could go to work. There she was at 8 years old losing her first tooth, smiling so wide that you could see all of her other teeth. I sat down on the living room floor, completely surrounded by the photos, and just cried my eyes out. I cried for that little girl who used to love me so unconditionally. I cried for all of the years that I had spent working so hard just to give her absolutely everything that she could ever want. I cried for the woman that she had become, so completely different from the daughter that I had raised. I remembered when she was 7 years old and she got pneumonia. It was January, so it was very cold, and we didn't even have any heat in our apartment. I slept embracing her every single night just to keep her as warm as I possibly could. I worked all day long cleaning for a wealthy family, and then spent my nights sewing clothes to sell. I used all of that money to pay for her medicine. I remember spending 3 full days straight without sleeping watching over her, just praying for her to get better. When the fever finally broke and she opened her eyes and smiled at me, just saying "Mommy," I felt like all the tiredness in the entire world had been worth it at that very moment. I promised her that I would always take care of her, that I would always be there for her, no matter what. Now that promise felt like a burden that only I had been carrying all this time. I put the photos back in the box and carried it to my room. I honestly couldn't keep looking at them every single day. It broke me inside every time I saw those images of happiness that now seemed like they belonged to another lifetime. That afternoon, when Patricia came home from work, she had a scowl on her face. Brenda came home with her. They both came into the house talking in low voices, but loud enough for me to easily hear them from the kitchen. "I just honestly can't believe that your mother did this to us," Brenda said. "After everything that you've done for her, giving her a home, food, and care. I know, Mom, but my mother has always been like this. Dramatic, always manipulative. Now she's using the house as a weapon just to control us. I squeeze the kitchen towel in my hand so tightly that my knuckles actually hurt. Manipulative? Me? The woman who had always given everything without ever asking for anything in return. You should absolutely fight this legally, Brenda continued. Tyrone definitely has rights. You've lived here for 15 years now. That has to count for something. We already spoke to a lawyer, Mom. He says that since she's the principal owner and we're just co-owners, she has the right to ask us to leave, but we're definitely looking at other options here. I peered through the kitchen door. What other options? They both immediately fell silent, giving me those guilty looks that I knew so well. Patricia then cleared her throat. Mom, we need to talk. I'm listening. Look, I know that you're upset with us. And maybe we made mistakes too. But what you're doing is just too much. Throwing us out of the house we've lived in for 15 years. The house where Sophia grew up? That's cruel, Mom. Utterly cruel. I felt something just break inside me. Cruel, like you were planning to stick me in a nursing home without even bothering to ask me about it. Cruel, like calling me an old woman who's nothing but a troublemaker. Cruel, like treating me like the hired help in my own darn house. We never treated you like a servant. Patricia yelled, completely losing it. Oh no? Then what was it, Patricia? When was the last time you even bothered to thank me for making a meal for you? When was the last time you asked how I was feeling? When was the last time you treated me like your mother? And not just some inconvenient chore you had to deal with. Brenda jumped right into the conversation, not missing a beat. Doris, don't be so dramatic about it. Young people are like that now. They're busy all the time. They've got a ton of pressure on them. You can't expect them to be waiting on you hand and foot all the time. Brenda, I don't expect them to be waiting on me hand and foot. All I expect is a minimum of respect. Something no one in this house seems to know how to give anymore. Patricia slammed the door as she stormed off to her room, fuming. Brenda gave me a venomous look before following right after her. I was left all alone in the living room, trembling with a mixture of anger and sadness. That night, Sophia came down to my room after everyone else had finally fallen asleep. She tapped gently on the door. Grandma, can I come in? Of course, my love, come on in. She came into the room with her eyes all swollen and red from crying. She sat down on my bed and gave me a really tight hug. Grandma, my mom says we have to leave the house. She says it's all your fault. Why are you doing this? It absolutely broke my heart to see my grandbaby so upset. I sat her on my lap like when she was a little girl and stroked her hair. My love, sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions. Decisions that might hurt, but they're necessary. But I don't want to leave. This is my house, my room, all my stuff is here. All my memories are here, Grandma. I know, sweetie, and believe me, this hurts me more than anyone. But your mom and dad have made it very clear that they don't want me here. And no one should have to live in a place where they aren't wanted. But I want you here, Grandma. I love you so much. And I love you, my love, more than anything else in the whole wide world. And that is something that will never ever change. Wherever you end up living, I will always be here for you. Always. I rocked her gently until she finally fell asleep in my arms. Then I carried her back to her room, just like when she was a baby. I tucked her in really carefully and kissed her on the forehead. Forgive me, my child, I whispered. Forgive me for not being able to protect you from all of this. The following days felt like we were living in an actual war zone. Patricia and Tyrone wouldn't even speak to me directly. When they absolutely had to say something, they did it through Sophia. Or they just left little notes for me in the kitchen. Doris, we're out of milk. Send someone to the store to get some. Doris, Sophia needs her clothes ironed for tomorrow. Doris, we won't be home for dinner tonight. The notes were always so cold and impersonal. No, please, no thank you. As if I was just some hired employee instead of the actual owner of the house. One afternoon while I was out in the backyard ironing clothes, my friend Esther came over to visit. She looked really worried. Doris, I heard everything that's going on. How are you holding up through all of this? I just shrugged, not even stopping my ironing. Just surviving, friend, that's all I'm doing. Have they found a new place to live yet? I have no idea. They don't talk to me at all. They just leave notes. Esther sat down in a plastic chair next to me. Are you absolutely sure about this, Doris? You could still back out, you know. I put the iron down on the ironing board and turned to face her. Esther, I've been feeling like a piece of trash in my own home for the last 2 years. 2 solid years of listening to them complain about me, of hearing them make plans to get rid of me. Do you really think I can keep living like that? No, of course not. But I don't want to see you suffer through all of this either. I'm already suffering, friend. The only difference is that now I'm finally doing something about it. We sat in silence for a long time. Esther helped me finish folding the laundry. It was a moment of peace in the middle of all the storm and chaos. Do you know what hurts the most? I asked her as I folded a sheet. It's not even that they want me out of here. It's that they've never even stopped for 1 second to think about everything I've done for them, all the sacrifices I've made over the years. Tell me about it, Doris. Just get it off your chest. And then I started to remember, and I told her everything that I had been keeping bottled up inside for so long. When Patricia's father left us, she was only 3 years old. And I was left with absolutely nothing. No money, no job, no family to help support me. My own mother had already passed away, and my siblings all lived far away. I was completely alone with a little girl who depended entirely on me. Esther held my hand, listening in complete silence. I managed to find a job cleaning houses for a family. They paid me $300 a week. It wasn't even enough to cover the rent for a small room, so I took a second job working at a diner at night. I would leave one job and go straight to the other one. I slept maybe 3 or 4 hours a night if I was lucky. Oh, Doris, that's terrible. Patricia stayed with the neighbor while I was working. Mrs. Amelia was a really kind woman who didn't charge me much to watch her, but even so, every single dollar I earned went straight to that. Rent, food, clothes for Patricia, Mrs. Amelia. I remembered those years like they had just happened yesterday. The constant tiredness that never seemed to go away. The hunger that I learned to ignore. The nights I cried in silence so Patricia wouldn't hear me. When Patricia turned 6, she started elementary school. She needed supplies, uniforms, books. And I didn't have money for any of that stuff. So I took a third job cleaning an office building on the weekends. I worked 7 days a week, Esther. 7 solid days. I don't even know how you endured it. I did it for her. Everything was for her. Every time I felt like I just couldn't keep going, I would look at her sleeping so peacefully, and I somehow found the strength to keep going. I kept talking, and the years passed in my memory like some kind of sad movie. When she started middle school, she wanted to go to a good school, not the one in our neighborhood where there were gangs and all kinds of trouble. I did a little research and I found a private school that charged $100 a month. It was an enormous amount of money for me, but somehow I managed to make it work. I worked even harder. I saved every single dime that I could. Patricia never even knew how much it was costing me. All she saw was that she got to go to that nice school where all the kids from the wealthier families went. Esther handed me a tissue. I hadn't even realized that I was crying. I never bought any new clothes for myself. Everything I wore was either secondhand or something someone had given to me. But Patricia always had the best that I could possibly give her. New shoes whenever she needed them. Nice clothes for the school dances, brand name school supplies, everything. You are an incredible mother, Doris. When she turned 15, she wanted a big birthday party. All her friends were having parties with live bands, expensive dresses, and fancy decorated venues. And she wanted one too. I had been saving up to buy this house. I had been putting money aside for years, dime by dime. But when I saw her hopeful little face talking about her quinceañera, I just knew that I couldn't tell her no. I paused for a moment, remembering that day with a mixture of love and pain. I spent every single penny I had saved on that party. Everything, Esther. The dress, the venue, the band, the food, the decorations. Patricia was so incredibly happy that day. She danced with me and told me, "You're the best mom in the world." It was one of the happiest days of my entire life. But you lost all your savings. I lost my savings, but I got to see my daughter happy in that moment. And that's what really mattered to me. So, I started all over again from zero. I started saving again. And it took me another 10 years to scrape together enough money for the down payment on this house. Esther shook her head, her eyes full of tears. And now she treats you like this? Now she treats me like this. I repeated it in a tired voice. We continued talking as we finished folding the clothes. I told her even more things that I had never told anyone else before. When Patricia met Tyrone, I had my doubts about him right from the start. Something about that boy just didn't feel right to me. He was very arrogant, very conceited, but she was in love with him, and all I wanted was to see her happy. Did you tell her about your doubts? I tried to talk to her about it once. I told her that Tyrone seemed a little cold, a little uninterested in her. She got so incredibly angry with me, Esther. She told me that I was just a bitter old woman who had never been able to rebuild her own life, and that's why I didn't want her to be happy. It hurt me so much that I never said anything about it again. I remembered the wedding, a big, expensive wedding that I also helped to pay for. Patricia wanted everything to be absolutely perfect, everything elegant and over the top. Tyrone didn't contribute a single dollar to it, and neither did his family. Everything fell squarely on my shoulders. I even had to sell the last pieces of jewelry that I owned to help pay for the wedding. Some gold earrings that had belonged to my grandmother, and a silver bracelet that my mother had given me when I turned 18. I sold them and gave all the money to Patricia. She didn't even ask me where the money had come from. She just took it and went on planning her perfect wedding. Doris, you're either way too good or just plain foolish, Esther said with a bitter laugh. After the wedding, they lived in a rented apartment for about 5 years, a small and really expensive place. They were always complaining that they didn't have enough money, that they wanted to buy a house of their own. When I finally finished paying off this house, I told them that they could come and live with me. It was big, and there was plenty of room for everyone. Patricia was pregnant with Sophia at the time, and I thought it would be really nice to have my daughter and my future grandbaby close by. And Tyrone, what did he say about that? Tyrone accepted immediately. Way too quickly now that I think about it. They didn't pay any rent. They didn't pay any of the utility bills. I covered everything with my Social Security and the money I made sewing on the side. All they had to pay for was their groceries and their own personal expenses. Esther shook her head. And they still complained about it? Not at first. The first few years were actually pretty good. Patricia helped me out around the house. We played with Sophia. We were like a real family. But little by little, things slowly started to change. Tyrone began to treat me differently, as if I was just some kind of nuisance. And then Patricia started doing the same thing. I told her about the day that I decided to also put Patricia's name on the house deed. It was about 10 years ago when Sophia was only 2 years old. A lawyer actually advised me not to do it. He told me that it was my only piece of property, my only real security, but I trusted my daughter. I thought that it was only fair, that she was my only family, and that when I died, the house would become hers anyway. So I went ahead and signed the papers. Did Patricia ask you to do that? Not directly, but one day I overheard her talking to Tyrone. They were saying that it wasn't fair that I was the only one who owned the house, that they lived there too and deserved to have some rights to it. It made me feel bad. I thought maybe they were right about it. So, the very next day, I went to the notary and arranged everything so that she would also be listed as an owner. Did she ever even thank you for it? I just remained silent. No, she never did thank me. When I gave her the papers, she just took them and said, "Well, that's how it should be." As if I had owed her that her entire life. Things got even worse when Brenda came into the picture. I continued, that woman never could tolerate me. From the very beginning, she treated me with absolute contempt and just filled Patricia's head with all these ideas that I was just a nosy, overbearing mother-in-law, a bitter old woman who was trying to control their lives. Esther knew Brenda really well. Everyone in the neighborhood knew her. She was well known for her incredibly venomous tongue, and her habit of stirring up trouble between families. Brenda started coming over to the house every single day. She would sit in my living room as if it was her own house, and she treated me just like a servant. Doris, bring me this. Doris, do that. And Patricia never said anything to her. On the contrary, she actually started treating me the same way. I told her about the family meals that had become absolute torture for me. Just sitting there at my own table in my own house, being completely ignored or even humiliated. The conversations about trips they were planning without even thinking about including me. The decisions about the house that they made without even consulting me. One day they decided to completely change all the living room furniture. I came home from Sunday service and I found movers carrying out my sofa, the one that I had bought with so much hard work years ago. I asked Patricia what was going on, and she just said that it was time for an update, Mom. That sofa was just way too old. They didn't even ask me about it. They just did it. And what did you do? Nothing. I just swallowed my anger and didn't say a single word. As always, I thought that maybe they were right, that maybe the sofa was just too worn out, but it hurt, Esther. It really hurt that they didn't even consider my feelings about something like that. I continued recounting more and more episodes, each one even worse than the last. The time that Tyrone yelled that he was sick and tired of supporting the old woman. The time that Patricia told her friends in front of me that I was just a burden to her. The time that Brenda suggested that they just put me in a nursing home. And everyone laughed as if it was just a joke. Do you know what the last straw was for me? I asked Esther. What was it? About a month ago, Sophia got really sick. She had a really high fever. Patricia and Tyrone had gone out to dinner. I stayed up all night taking care of her. I put cold cloths on her forehead, gave her medicine, and sang to her until she finally fell asleep. In the early morning, when the fever had finally broken, Sophia hugged me and said, I love you, Grandma. You always take care of me. My voice broke as I remembered it. The very next day when Patricia came home, I told her that Sophia had been sick. And do you know what she said to me? She said, Oh, Mom, don't exaggerate. It was probably just a cold. You always make a drama out of everything. She didn't thank me. She didn't ask me how I had spent the night. She just made me feel like I had completely blown everything out of proportion. Esther hugged me tightly. It was time for you to do something about it, Doris. It was definitely time. That night, when everyone had finally returned home, Tyrone handed me a piece of paper. This is an offer. We'll buy your share of the house and you can just move out. That way everyone will be happy. I looked down at the paper. It was for a ridiculous amount, less than half of what my share of the house was actually worth. This is an insult, Tyrone. It's all we can afford to pay. Take it or leave it. I ripped the paper into tiny pieces and threw them right in his face. I'm not selling anything. This house is mine and you are the ones who are going to leave. The deadline is still running. You've got 25 days left. Tyrone turned red with rage, but he didn't say anything else. He just slammed the door shut, making the whole entire house shake. I couldn't sleep a wink that night. I just stayed awake thinking about everything. The years and years of sacrifice, the love that I had given without measure, and the ingratitude that I had received in return. And for the very first time, I didn't feel guilty about any of it. I didn't feel bad. I actually felt free. Free from the burden of always having to be the perfect mother who endures absolutely everything. Free from the constant need to try to please everyone else but myself. I stood in front of the mirror in my room. I looked at the woman who was staring back at me. She was 68 years old. Wrinkles all over her face, gray hair starting to show, hands tired from so much work. But in her eyes I saw something new. Something that I hadn't seen in a really long time. I saw strength. I saw determination. I saw a woman who had finally decided to stand up and fight for herself. We're going to be alright, I told my reflection. Everything is going to be alright. And for the very first time in 2 years I actually believed it. I woke up the next morning with a mental clarity that I hadn't felt in years. It was Tuesday. There were 23 days left before the deadline. While I was preparing breakfast, I realized something really important. My hands weren't trembling anymore. I no longer felt that horrible knot in my stomach every time I heard their voices. Something inside me had definitely changed. Patricia came downstairs for breakfast with a deep frown on her face. She poured herself some coffee without saying a single word and sat down as far away from me as she could possibly get. Tyrone didn't even bother coming downstairs. He just went straight to work without even saying goodbye to anyone. Only Sophia gave me a good morning with her soft, sweet little voice. Good morning, Grandma. Did you sleep well? Very well, my love. Do you want some chocolate chip pancakes this morning? Yes, please. Patricia just gave me a really nasty look, but she didn't say anything at all. I prepared Sophia's pancakes with all the love in the world, decorating them with syrup and fresh strawberries just the way that she liked them. The little girl smiled, and that was all that I needed to completely fill my heart with joy. When everyone had left, I began to put my plan into action. It wasn't a plan for revenge. It was a plan for pure survival, for reclaiming my life and taking back control. First, I called the bank. I spoke with the bank manager, Mr. Sanchez, who had known me for years. Mrs. Thames, how can I help you today? Mr. Sanchez, I need to review all the accounts that I have there, and I need to make some important changes to them. Of course, you can come in this afternoon. I'll be here waiting for you. Then I called the electric company. For years, the bills had been coming in my name, but Tyrone had been paying them, or at least that's what he had always told me. I wanted to verify that they had actually been paid. Good afternoon. I'm calling to check on the status of my account. The woman on the other end checked her system. Mrs. Thames, I see that you have an outstanding balance for the past 4 months. My whole world just stopped for a moment. 4 months? But Tyrone had told me that he was paying them. We haven't received any payments since March, ma'am. March. 4 months had gone by without the electricity bill being paid. Tyrone had been lying to me all this time. He had been taking the money that I was giving him for the utilities and spending it on who knows what, right in front of my face. What is the total amount that is due? It's $327. Ma'am, it was a lot of money, but I had to pay it or they were going to cut off the service. I'm coming in to pay it today. Thank you. I hung up the phone and took a really deep breath. The rage that I felt was so incredibly strong that I struggled to remain calm, but I knew that I couldn't explode. No, I still had to be smart and play my cards carefully. I called the water service next, and it was the exact same story. 2 months overdue, $150. Then I called the gas company. 1 month overdue, $80. In total, Tyrone had failed to pay $557 in utility bills. Money that I had specifically given to him for that. Money that he had been using for who knows what while looking me directly in the eye. I changed my clothes, grabbed my purse, and left the house. I had a lot of things to do and very little time to do them in. First stop, the bank. Mr. Sanchez greeted me in his office with a kind smile. Mrs. Thames, tell me what you need today. I explained the whole situation to him, everything, the mistreatment I had been suffering, the plans that they had to put me in a nursing home, and the debts that I had just found out about. Mr. Sanchez, I need to know exactly how much money I actually have and where it is, and I need to do everything that I can to protect it. We reviewed all of my accounts. My Social Security check was automatically deposited into a savings account every single month, and I had managed to save up $72,000. It was all that I had left in the world besides this house. Mrs. Thames, does anyone else have access to this account? No, just me. Perfect. We're going to make a few changes to it to make sure that it's more secure. First, we're going to change all of your passwords and PINs. Second, we're going to set up text alerts so that you receive a text message every single time there is any kind of transaction on your account. And third, I highly recommend that you request a brand new debit card. We made all the necessary changes. Mr. Sanchez was incredibly patient, explaining everything to me step by step. When we were finally finished, I felt much safer and secure. One last thing, Mr. Sanchez. My Social Security check goes directly into this account, correct? That is correct. And if someone wanted to change that, what would they actually need? They would need your signature and an official form of identification. Without those things, no one would be able to make any changes at all. Perfect. Thank you so much for your help. It was my pleasure to serve you, Mrs. Thames. And if you need anything at all in the future, please don't hesitate to call me. I left the bank feeling much stronger. My money was safe and secure. No one could touch it now. Second stop, paying all the utility bills. I went to the electric company office first. The line was really long, but it was definitely worth the wait. I paid the $327 and asked that all future bills come only in my name, and that all notifications be sent only to my cell phone. Ma'am, are you absolutely sure about that? The service is definitely in your name, but I see that there is another phone number registered for notifications. Please delete that other number. I only want mine registered. As you wish. I did the exact same thing at the water company office, and I paid the gas bill over the phone. In total, I spent $557 that day. It really hurt to see that money go, but it was something that I had to do. Besides, now I had total control over all the utility bills. Third stop, the local market. I really needed to clear my head and just think for a little while. And the market had always been a place where I could relax. I walked slowly among the stalls, greeting all the vendors who had known me for years. Doris, how are you doing today? Haven't seen you in a while, said Mr. Jenkins, the vegetable man. I'm doing just fine, Mr. Jenkins. I've just been a little busy lately. You look different, though. Lighter, I guess is how I should put it. Like a big weight has been lifted off of your shoulders. His comment really surprised me. Lighter? Yes, like you finally shed a big burden. Your face is actually glowing differently. I just smiled. Mr. Jenkins was right. I really did feel different. I felt much more like my old self again. I bought some fresh vegetables and continued walking around. I stopped at Mrs. Betty's stall, where they sold delicious prepared soul food. Mrs. Doris, what can I get for you today? I'll take a plate of smothered pork chops and rice, please, to go. While I was waiting for my order to be ready, I sat down on one of the market benches. I just watched all the people passing by, families shopping together, ladies haggling over prices, and children running in and out between the stalls. Just normal life, simple life. How long had it actually been since I had just sat like this, calmly just observing everyone? Years, maybe even decades. I had always been rushing around, working and worrying about everyone else. Here's your food, Mrs. Doris. Thank you, Mrs. Betty. I returned home around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The house was empty and silent. I served the pork chops and rice on my favorite plate, the one with the pretty blue flowers, and sat down to eat slowly, savoring every single bite. After I finished eating, I went upstairs to my room and took out an old notebook that I had bought years ago and had never even used. It was finally time to make a list. A list of, here's the translated and rewritten text, aiming for a Dian Jai and Imo Rong Ne style, suitable for an American English audience. I wrote down everything I needed to accomplish in the next 23 days. The list included, talk to attorney Andrew about the next steps, separate my belongings from theirs, decide what to do with the furniture and other household items, find a locksmith and have the locks changed as soon as they're gone, talk to Sophia and calmly explain the situation to her, prepare the house to live in it by myself, create a monthly budget to track my expenses, contact my friends from the prayer group. Looking at the list, it seemed like a lot, but it was definitely manageable. And the most important thing was, this was my list, my decisions, my life. I immediately picked up the phone and called attorney Andrew. He answered right away on the second ring. Mrs. Thess, good afternoon. How are things progressing? I replied, well, attorney, I have a couple of questions for you. He said, of course, please ask away. I inquired, what happens if they refuse to leave after the 30 days? He responded, then we'll begin the legal eviction process. We have more than enough legal justification. They're in breach of the agreement for a number of reasons. Rest assured, the law is definitely on your side. I then asked, what about my things? I have furniture, appliances, and other items that I purchased myself. He assured me, anything you can prove you purchased with your own money is legally yours. They have no right to take it. I highly recommend you create a detailed inventory, including photographs of everything. Photographs? I asked. He confirmed, yes. Take pictures of all of your possessions, making sure the date is visible in the photo. That way, we'll have solid proof if they try to take anything that belongs to you. Understood. Understood. Thank you very much, attorney. He said. I'm here to help you, Mrs. Thames. And please remember, you're absolutely doing the right thing. I hung up the phone and immediately started taking photographs. I systematically went through the entire house with my cell phone, photographing everything. I took pictures of the stove I'd purchased 10 years ago, the refrigerator that had taken me months to save up for, the washing machine, the living room furniture that Patricia had replaced without asking, but that I'd ended up paying for because I didn't have any other option, the dining room, the bedrooms. Every photo I took was further evidence. Evidence that this house and everything inside it was the direct result of my hard work and effort. By the time I finished, I had over 200 photos. I saved them all in a separate folder on my phone and created a backup by emailing them to myself. It was almost 6 p.m. when I heard the front door open. It was Patricia. She was alone. Mom, are you home? She called out. I responded from the kitchen. I'm in here. She walked in with a very serious look on her face, sat down in one of the kitchen chairs, and stared directly at me. Mom, we really need to talk. I said. I'm listening. She said. This situation has gone too far. Tyrone is extremely stressed. Sophia is constantly sad, and I just don't know what to do anymore. For a brief moment, I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes. Was it regret? Pain? I couldn't be sure. I responded. Patricia, I never wanted things to come to this point either, but you didn't leave me any other choice. She said. Mom, we never intended to hurt you. I set down the kitchen towel I was folding. Then what was it? I asked. Were you planning to put me in a nursing home? Treating me like a servant? And lying to me about paying the utility bills? Her face went pale. How did you find out about the utilities? She asked. Because I went and paid them myself, I replied. 4 months of electricity, 2 of water, 1 of gas, $557 that I gave to Tyrone, and he didn't pay a single bill. What did he spend that money on, Patricia? She lowered her eyes, clearly ashamed. I don't know, Mom. I honestly don't know. Tyrone takes care of all the money. I responded. Well, you should know. It's your family. It's your responsibility. She remained silent for a long time. When she finally spoke again, her voice was softer, more vulnerable. Mom, are you really going to kick us out? She asked. Is there absolutely no way to fix this? I felt something stir inside me. This was my daughter, my only daughter. The little girl I used to hold in my arms, whom I had nursed when she was sick, whom I had raised with so much love. But she was also the woman who had humiliated me, who had treated me like I was nothing, who had been planning to get rid of me without a second thought. I asked her, Patricia, do you think I deserve to be treated with respect? She replied, Of course I do, Mom. I responded, Then why didn't you treat me with respect? Why did you allow Tyrone to treat me so badly? Why did you let your mother-in-law humiliate me in my own home? Why didn't you ever stand up for me? She said, I don't know, Mom. I guess I let myself be influenced. Tyrone can be very persuasive. And his mother too. And I was tired, stressed. I just didn't think. I retorted, You didn't think about me. That's what happened. You never think about me. Tears began to stream down her face. I'm so sorry, Mom. I really am. It was the first time in 2 years that I had heard her genuinely apologize. But something inside me simply couldn't accept it so easily anymore. Apologies without changed behavior were completely meaningless. I said, Patricia, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen very carefully. I love you. You're my daughter and you'll always be my daughter. But loving someone doesn't mean allowing them to walk all over me. Loving someone doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. And loving someone definitely doesn't mean sacrificing my own dignity to keep the peace. She continued to cry silently, wiping the tears from her eyes with the back of her hand. I continued, All my life I've always put others first. You, your needs, your happiness, and I don't regret any of it. But there came a point when I lost sight of the fact that I matter too, that I also deserve respect, love, and consideration. I continued, "The next 23 days are going to be difficult, I know, but they're absolutely necessary. I need you to understand that you can't treat me this way. And you need to realize that being my daughter doesn't give you the right to disrespect me." She asked, "And after those 23 days, what's going to happen to us?" I replied, "I honestly don't know, baby. I really don't know. It depends entirely on you, on how you use this time, on whether or not you truly understand what you've done wrong." Patricia stood up from the chair, trembling. "I'm going to talk to Tyrone," she said. "I'm going to try and make him understand." I responded, "Do what you need to do, but the deadline isn't going to change." She left the kitchen with her shoulders slumped. I heard her slowly climbing the stairs. A part of me wanted to run after her, hug her, and tell her that everything would be okay. But I stayed right where I was because the simple truth was that not everything was okay, and I couldn't keep pretending that it was. That night, Tyrone came home later than usual. I heard raised voices coming from their bedroom. They were arguing. I couldn't make out the exact words, but the tone was unmistakable. They were fighting about me, about the current situation, about the uncertain future that awaited them. Around 10 p.m., Sophia came down to my room. She had her pillow and her favorite teddy bear in her arms. "Grandma, can I sleep with you tonight? My parents are fighting." I replied, "Of course you can, my love. Come on in." She slipped into my bed and curled up against me. I stroked her hair until her breathing became slow and deep. Almost asleep, she whispered, "Grandma, why are grown-ups so complicated?" I smiled in the darkness. "Because sometimes we forget how to be simple, my love. We forget that the most important things are love and respect." She snuggled closer. "You love me, Grandma, more than anything in the world, right? More than anything, sweetie. More than anything." She fell asleep in my arms. I stayed awake a little longer, staring up at the ceiling, thinking about everything. In the days that followed, I established a routine for myself. I woke up early, did my chores around the house, went for walks in the park, and started attending the prayer group meetings again on Wednesday afternoons. I reconnected with friends that I had lost touch with because I simply hadn't had the time. One of those friends was Hope. I had met her years ago at the textile plant where I used to work. We had drifted apart when Patricia got married, and I became a grandmother. "Doris, this is a miracle. How many years has it been?" she exclaimed. "Too many, my friend." "I've missed you," I said. We sat down on a park bench and talked for hours. I told her everything that had been going on. She listened without judging, without interrupting. "You did the right thing, Doris. The absolutely right thing." I asked her. "I went through something similar many years ago with my oldest son. Sometimes children forget who we are, and everything that we've done for them." I asked, "And how did your situation end up resolving itself?" She replied, "I had to establish very strong boundaries, very firm ones. My son was angry. He didn't speak to me for an entire year, but eventually he came to understand. Now our relationship is better than it ever has been because it's based on mutual respect, and not just on obligation. That year of not speaking was the hardest year of my life, but it was also the most necessary because I finally learned to live for myself, to be happy without depending on my children's approval." Her words gave me hope. Maybe Patricia and I could eventually rebuild our relationship. But first, I had to completely destroy the toxic dynamic that we had created. The days continued to pass, 23, 22, 21. The atmosphere in the house was tense, but I remained calm. I did my own things, took care of Sophia, and made a conscious effort to avoid conflict whenever possible. One afternoon, I found Patricia crying in her room. The door was open and I hesitated, wondering whether or not I should go inside. "Mom?" She noticed me standing in the hallway. "Can you come in here for a minute?" I sat down on the edge of her bed. She wiped away her tears. "We haven't been able to find a house, Mom," she said. "We've looked at about 20 of them, and none of them are within our budget. They're either too expensive or too far away from Tyrone's job, or they're in really dangerous neighborhoods. I just don't know what we're going to do. For a brief moment I felt the overwhelming urge to give in, to tell her that they could stay, to forget about all of this. But I bit my tongue. You still have time to look, I said. You'll find something. She responded. And if we don't, are you really going to put us out on the street? I replied. I'm not putting you out on the street, Patricia. You have options. You could rent a temporary apartment. You could ask Tyrone's family for help. You could look in other areas. There are options available to you. She said. None of them are as good as this house. I responded. This house is mine and I need my space. She nodded slowly. I understand, Mom. I really understand now. I didn't know whether or not to believe her, but I simply nodded, got up and left her room. That night, while I was preparing dinner, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Doris Thames? I answered. Yes, this is she. The voice on the other end said, This is Sarah from the prayer group. I apologize for calling you so late. I replied, It's no trouble at all. What can I do for you? She said, I heard about your situation from the other sisters in the group, and I just wanted to tell you that I'm very proud of you. What you're doing takes a lot of courage. I was taken by surprise. Thank you, Sister Sarah, I replied. She continued, and I also wanted to offer you something. My husband and I have an extra room in our house. If you ever need a quiet place to think or just relax, you're more than welcome to come over. No strings attached, no pressure whatsoever. My eyes began to fill with tears. You have no idea how much that means to me. Thank you so very much. She responded. That's what sisters are for, to support one another. God bless you, Mrs. Doris. I hung up the phone, feeling incredibly supported. I realized that I wasn't alone in this. I had people who cared about me, people who understood what I was going through. 14 days, 13 days, 12 days. The clock kept ticking, and I remained firm in my decision. One morning, 11 days before the deadline, I woke up with a deep sense of peace. It was a Saturday. The sun streamed through my window, illuminating the dust particles floating in the air. I got out of bed, took a long, relaxing bath, put on my favorite dress, and went downstairs to make breakfast. At the kitchen table were Patricia, Tyrone, and Sophia, all sitting in silence. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down with them. Good morning, I said. Good morning, Mom, Patricia replied softly. Tyrone didn't say anything. Sophia smiled at me. We found a house, Patricia said suddenly. It's smaller than this one and it's more expensive, but it's the only thing we could find that we could actually afford. I replied. I'm glad you found something. She continued. We're moving on Thursday, which is 4 days before the deadline. I simply nodded. Good. Silence returned to the table, but it was a different kind of silence this time. It wasn't hostile. It was resigned. Sad but resigned. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt completely at peace with my decisions. 11 days left to reclaim my house, my space, my life. 11 days left to finally be myself again. Thursday arrived more quickly than I had anticipated. I woke up early, long before the sun even began to rise. I hadn't slept very well, not because I was nervous, but because of the complex mix of emotions that I simply couldn't identify. Relief, sadness, and hope were all jumbled together, forming a knot in my chest that wasn't necessarily painful, but definitely intense. From my bedroom window, I watched as the sky slowly painted itself with shades of orange and pink. It was an incredibly beautiful sunrise, almost as if God himself was painting the beginning of my new life. I went downstairs to the kitchen and made coffee. The rich aroma filled the entire house. It was still very early, barely 6 o'clock in the morning, but I could hear movement coming from upstairs. They were awake too. At 7 a.m. the moving truck arrived. It was a large truck, one of those with the company name and logo painted on the sides. 2 young men got out of the truck and rang the doorbell. Tyrone answered the door. Come on in, he said. Everything that needs to be moved is marked with blue tape. Over the next several hours, I watched as they started taking things out of my house. Patricia and Tyrone's king-sized bed. Sophia's desk. Boxes and boxes of clothes, shoes, toys, and books. The TV from the master bedroom. Patricia's closet, which was absolutely packed to the brim. I stayed in the kitchen watching everything from a distance. I didn't help load anything. I didn't offer to say goodbye to the furniture. I simply watched. Patricia came down the stairs carrying a small box. It was the photo box, the same one that I had found weeks earlier. She saw me looking at her. "These are pictures from when I was little," she said softly. "I thought maybe you'd want to keep some of them." I replied, "Keep them all. They're your memories. They're your history." She nodded and put the box in her car. Sophia was sitting on the stairs hugging her teddy bear. Her eyes were red from crying. It absolutely broke my heart to see her like that. But I knew deep down that this was necessary. Children are incredibly resilient. She would be all right. I sat down next to her on the step. "How are you doing, my love?" I asked. She replied, "Sad, Grandma. I don't want to leave." I said, "I know, sweetie, but sometimes things have to change so that we can all be better. I'll be able to visit you every single weekend that you want. This will always be your house, too. The only difference is that you won't be living here anymore." She looked up at me. "Do you promise?" "I promise you by the Lord." She hugged me tightly and cried for a little while longer. I cried too, but silently, so as not to upset her even more. By noon, the moving truck was almost completely full. Tyrone was supervising everything, making notes in a notebook, making sure that they hadn't forgotten anything. Brenda had arrived an hour earlier and was sitting in the living room like a queen, barking orders at the movers. "Be careful with that vase. It's very expensive. Patricia, tell these boys to be more careful." I walked past her on my way to the backyard, and she didn't even look at me, as if I no longer existed. And the truth was I didn't care. That woman no longer had any power over me. In the backyard I watered my plants, my roses, my geraniums, my basil. I had neglected them in recent weeks and it definitely showed. But today I had time. Today I had my whole life ahead of me to take care of them. One of the movers approached me. "Mrs. Thess? Excuse me, is this refrigerator going as well?" I replied, "No, that refrigerator is staying right here. It's mine." The young man nodded and walked away. I heard Tyrone protesting from inside the house. "What do you mean the fridge is staying? We need it." I heard Patricia say, "It's Mom's. She bought it." Tyrone retorted, "Well, she can sell it to us. We can't arrive at the new house without a refrigerator." I walked back into the living room and said, "It's not for sale. It's mine and it's staying here. You can buy your own." Tyrone shot me a look full of pure hatred, but he didn't say anything else. He knew that he had no power here. Not anymore. At 1 p.m. the truck was finally ready to go. The movers closed the rear doors and got into the cab. Patricia, Tyrone, and Sophia stood in the living room, surrounded by the last few boxes that they would be taking in their car. There was a heavy, uncomfortable silence. No one seemed to know what to say. Brenda was the first to break the silence. "Well, let's go," she said. "There's nothing else to do here." She grabbed her purse and walked out of the house without even saying goodbye to me, as if the past 2 years had never even happened. Tyrone followed her, carrying 2 boxes. I was left alone with Patricia and Sophia. "Mom." Patricia approached me with tearful eyes. I don't know what to say," I replied. "You don't have to say anything." She continued, "But I want you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. I'm sorry that I treated you so badly. I'm sorry that I didn't value you. I'm sorry for everything." Her words sounded sincere, but I had heard apologies before. What mattered now were actions, not words. I said, "Patricia, I forgive you. I've already told you that. But forgiving someone doesn't mean forgetting everything that happened. It doesn't mean that everything automatically goes back to the way it was before." She said, "I know, Mom. I know." Sophia clung to my waist. "Grandma, I'm going to miss you so much." I bent down to her height and wiped away her tears with my hands. And I'll miss you too, my love. But we'll see each other very soon. You can come have breakfast with me on Saturday. She looked up, her eyes wide. All right. Really? I replied, really? I kissed her on the forehead and hugged her tight. She smelled like baby soap and cookies. My grandbaby, my treasure. Patricia leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. Thank you for everything, Mom. For raising me, for giving me everything, for being my mother, even though I haven't been a very good daughter. I responded. You were a good daughter for many years, Patricia. What happened after that? Well, let's just hope that this serves as a valuable lesson for all of us. She nodded and took Sophia's hand. Let's go, my love. Your dad is waiting. I watched them walk out the door. Patricia looked back one last time before closing it. She looked at me with those eyes that I knew so well, the same eyes that she had as a child when she was afraid of the dark. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, baby. The door closed. The silence that followed was absolute. It wasn't a sad silence, however. It was a silence full of possibilities, freedom, and peace. I walked through the house. The living room seemed bigger without so much furniture. The master bedroom was completely empty. Only my twin bed remained, the one that had always been there. Sophia's room no longer had her toys or her drawings on the walls, but it was still my house, completely and utterly mine. I sat down on the living room sofa, the same one where I had sat so many times, feeling completely invisible. Now I felt the exact opposite. I felt present. I felt alive. I cried. I cried for everything that I had lost, for the relationship with my daughter that would now have to be rebuilt from scratch, for the moments with my grandbaby that would be so different now. I cried for the years that I had spent feeling small in my own house. But I also cried with relief, with freedom, with the overwhelming knowledge that I had finally had the courage to choose myself. The phone rang. It was Esther. Friend, how are you? Did they finally leave? I replied, They left, Esther. She asked, And how are you feeling? Strange, I said. Like a huge weight has been lifted, but at the same time like something is missing. Esther said, That's completely normal. Do you want me to come over? No, friend. Thank you. I need to be alone for a while. I need to get used to my new life. Esther replied, I understand, but if you need me, please call me anytime. Thanks, Esther. Really. I hung up the phone and remained sitting on the sofa. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, and the shadows were getting longer in the backyard. It would be nighttime soon. I got up and walked to the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator. It was almost completely empty. There were only some vegetables, eggs, and milk. Tomorrow I would go to the market to stock it up properly, to buy only what I liked, to fill my house with my favorite foods. I prepared a simple cheese sandwich. Bread, cheese, a little pepper. I sat down to eat it at the kitchen table. That table where I had served thousands of meals for my family was now just for me. And for the first time in many years, that didn't make me feel lonely. It made me feel free. That night I slept profoundly, without nightmares, without anxiety. Just the peaceful sleep of someone who has finally found peace. The next day, Friday, I woke up with the sun streaming through my window. It was my first day completely alone in the house. I stretched in bed, taking my time. There was no rush. No one was waiting for breakfast. There were no clothes that urgently needed washing. There was no yelling or complaining, just silence. Blessed silence. I got up slowly, took a long hot shower, put on some comfortable clothes, and went downstairs to make breakfast. I turned on the radio to a station that played music from my era, soul, R&B ballads, songs that reminded me of my youth. I prepared scrambled eggs with bacon, refried beans, and warm tortillas, all just for myself. I served myself and ate slowly, thoroughly enjoying every single bite. After breakfast, I called a locksmith. Attorney Andrew had recommended that I change all the locks on the house for security. Good morning. Do you change locks? I asked. The voice on the other end replied, Yes, ma'am. I said, When would you be available to do that? He responded, Can you do it today? He replied, Let me check. Yes, I can be there around 3 o'clock this afternoon. I said, Perfect. I'll be waiting for you. I also called a painter. The walls of the house were definitely in need of a fresh coat of paint. I needed to renovate everything in order to make this space feel new again. At 3 p.m., the locksmith arrived, an older gentleman with a large mustache and strong hands. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm here about the locks. Come on in, I said. There are 3 doors, the main one, the back one, and the one to my bedroom. He worked for 2 hours. When he was finished, he handed me 6 new keys, 3 for each lock. Here you go, ma'am. No one but you can enter now. I paid him and he left. I stood there looking at the keys in my hand. They were small, but they meant absolutely everything. They meant that this house was mine and no one else's. On Saturday morning, as I had promised, Sophia came to visit me. Patricia dropped her off at the door and left without getting out of the car. She didn't honk or say goodbye. She just left the girl and drove away. Sophia ran into my arms. My love, how are you? I asked. She replied, good. The new house is weird. It's small, but my parents say that we'll get used to it. Of course you will, I said. It just takes time. We spent the entire morning together. We made chocolate chip cookies. We watched a movie. We played bingo. We laughed a lot. When Patricia came back to pick her up, at noon Sophia's face was beaming. Grandma, can I come again next week? Every week you want, my love, I replied. Patricia rolled down the car window. Thanks for watching her, Mom. I'm not watching her, I corrected gently. I'm enjoying my grandbaby. There was an awkward moment of silence hanging in the air. Mom, Patricia began hesitantly, can we talk sometime? Just you and me? When you're ready, Patricia, I said. When you're truly ready. She nodded, a small, almost imperceptible movement, and then she drove away. The days slipped by one after another. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. My life settled into a new, comfortable rhythm. I woke up when my body told me to. I cooked whatever my heart desired. I watched television without a single complaint from anyone. I invited my friends over for coffee and lively conversation. I went to church every Sunday, seeking solace and connection. I lovingly tended to my garden, watching life bloom around me. And every Saturday without fail Sophia came to visit me, filling my house with laughter and joy. Patricia and I talked on the phone sometimes. Our conversations were short and superficial, filled with polite inquiries about each other's health and observations about the weather. Nothing deep or meaningful had been broached yet, but that was fine. I had learned something incredibly important. That love doesn't have to hurt. That family relationships must be built on a foundation of respect, not on a sense of obligation. One afternoon, 3 months after they had left, Patricia called me. Mom, she said, her voice sounding different. Can we meet? I want to talk to you. Sure, I replied. Here at the house? Yes, if it doesn't bother you, she answered. It doesn't bother me, I assured her. The next day, Patricia arrived alone. No Tyrone, no Sophia, just her. We sat together in the living room, sipping coffee and nibbling on cookies. Mom, she began, her voice a little shaky. I want you to know something. Tyrone and I are in couples therapy. I was surprised by her words. Seriously? I asked. Yes, she confirmed. All of this, everything that has happened, has made us realize so many things. How badly we treated the people we love. How we let his mother manipulate us. How we distanced ourselves from what really matters. I'm glad you're working on that, I said, feeling a glimmer of hope. And I also started individual therapy, she continued, to work on myself, on why I allowed things to go so far with you. I felt something soften in my chest, a release of some of the pent-up anger and resentment I had been holding on to. Patricia, that speaks highly of you, I said sincerely. I know I can't erase what happened, she said, her eyes filled with remorse. I know I hurt you a lot. And I know we're going to need time to rebuild our relationship. But I want to try, Mom. I really want to try. I looked into her eyes, searching for sincerity. She was no longer the arrogant, cold woman of months ago. She was someone different, someone more humble, more aware of her flaws and shortcomings. I want to try too, baby, I replied. But it has to be different this time. I know, she said. And it will be. Promise you. I don't know if I fully believed her, but I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt because that's what mothers do. They love, they forgive, and they give second chances, but now with boundaries, with dignity, and with mutual respect. And that, I knew, would make all the difference. 6 months have passed since that Thursday that changed everything. 6 months since I reclaimed my house, my space, my life. And today, I can honestly say that it was the best decision I've ever made. I wake up when I want, not when someone else tells me to. I prepare my coffee slowly, savoring every step of the process. I sit at my table, which now has only one chair, mine, and read the newspaper while I eat breakfast. The house is quieter now, without the constant drama and tension. But it's not the sad silence of loneliness. It's the peaceful silence of contentment. My days have a new routine that I deeply enjoy. On Mondays, I go to the market to pick up fresh produce and chat with the vendors. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I attend a knitting class at the community center, where I connect with other creative women. On Wednesdays, I go to a prayer group, finding strength and comfort in shared faith. On Fridays, I do whatever I feel like, indulging in my hobbies and passions. And on Saturdays, without fail, Sophia comes to visit me. Those are, without a doubt, my favorite days of the week. Patricia drops her off and picks her up. Every time we see each other, we greet each other with more warmth and affection. There's not so much tension hanging in the air anymore. Slowly but surely, we are healing the wounds of the past. 2 weeks ago, Patricia came over for coffee with me, just the two of us. She told me that things in her marriage are improving, that therapy is helping them communicate better and resolve their conflicts. And then she told me something that truly surprised me. Mom, she said, I've cut contact with Brenda. I felt a surge of relief and hope. You did? I asked. Yes, she confirmed. I realized how much poison she was putting into my head. I felt a wave of pride wash over me. My daughter was growing, she was maturing, and she was finally taking control of her life. Mom, she continued, I know we still have a long way to go, but every day I work on being a better person, a better daughter, and a better mom for Sophia. I reached out and took her hands in mine. You're doing well, baby, I said. And I'm proud of you. We cried together that day, but they were tears of healing, tears of hope, and tears of love being rebuilt brick by brick. This morning, after watering the roses, I sat in my favorite backyard chair. I closed my eyes and felt the warm sun on my face. I listened to the birds singing their cheerful melodies, and I felt complete, utterly and completely content. Not because I have everything I ever wanted, but because I finally have myself. My relationship with Patricia isn't perfect, and maybe it never will be. But it's real, it's honest, and it's based on mutual respect. Sophia is still my guiding light, the source of so much joy and laughter in my life. Every Saturday I spend with her is a precious gift that I cherish. My house no longer feels big and empty. It feels like the perfect size, cozy and inviting. I have filled it with things that make me happy. Lush green plants, framed photos of beautiful moments, stacks of books waiting to be read, and half-finished knitting projects that represent my creativity and passion. Choosing myself, prioritizing my own well-being saved my life. And I don't regret a single thing. Tomorrow is Saturday. Sophia is coming over. We are going to make chocolate chip cookies, her favorite. And when Patricia comes to pick her up, maybe we'll stay and talk a little longer, sharing stories and laughter. Or maybe we won't, and that's okay too, because I no longer need things to be perfect. I just need them to be real. I am 68 years old. I have lived a lot of life. I have suffered a lot of pain and heartache. I have loved with all my heart. And I still have a lot of life ahead of me. A life that I will live on my own terms, with my dignity intact and my peace of mind fully recovered. I look out the window at my garden, at the vibrant colors and the delicate blooms. The roses are blooming beautifully, their petals unfurling in the sunlight. And I think that's what my life is like now. Blooming, growing, beautiful, full of promise and potential. Sometimes the biggest and most transformative beginning is the silence one chooses to keep, the boundaries one chooses to set, the love one chooses to give to oneself. Did you enjoy my story? And what city are you listening from? Let's connect in the comments. If you liked the story and found it meaningful, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing you more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet and generous support. I'm looking forward to reading your comments and hearing your thoughts on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more to discover on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new content.